Imagine living your life normally, and when something that you have been waiting for a long time happens, your crush declares that he likes you the same way. So the two arrange a meeting to make their relationship official. However, on the day, something strange happens. You receive a call from a private number, and when you answer it, it's your classmate. She takes her own life and orders you to watch her do it. However, from that moment on, everything changes, including you. The two exchange bodies with each other. What's next for our protagonist, Ayumi? The episode begins with Koshiro declaring himself to the protagonist and asking her on a date. On this day, there will be a red moon, a phenomenon that some people haven't paid attention to until now. In the next scene, we see the protagonist going on a date, and when she arrives at the place, she quickly sees her lover. However, before she approaches him, a private number calls Ayumi's cell phone, and when she answers, she discovers it is her classmate Zenko. The girl is at the top of a building about to take her life, and she orders the protagonist to watch. Suddenly everything goes dark, and we see her in a hospital. The doctor explains that she had no serious injuries, and when asking about Zenko, he discovers that she is the girl now. Ayumi starts to freak out, and the person responsible for the body's owner shows up to take her home. There, she already realizes that Zenko led a very different life from hers, starting with the fact that she needed a good cleaning and family love, which seemed to be zero. We now see Ayumi with her friends Kaga and Koshiro. The three share a strawberry drink and have fun because it is very cold. Returning to the protagonist, it wasn't a dream, and she really is in Zenko's body, so when she wakes up and puts on her uniform, she goes to her mother to ask for help. However, she doesn't understand what the main character is saying. At school, Ayumi can't believe her eyes. Someone is in her body and acting like it's her. The girl starts to freak out and ends up knocking down the person in her body. Everything was in vain as they pushed the two away, and she didn't even have the opportunity to find out what happened. However, when Kaga went to push them away, she noticed that Zenko was different. Ayumi notices that life in her classmate's body is not very good. Teachers make fun of her appearance, and the girl has no friends. The protagonist stays after class to clean up what the teacher ordered. Koshiro appears to help her, and when Ayumi tries to explain what is happening by citing things that only the two of them would know, he thinks that the girl is trying to have something romantic. Then he apologizes if he implied they had a chance. The protagonist goes to the school roof and breaks down crying, at which point she receives a surprise visitor. Zenko inside her body appears and says that she doesn't intend to change what she did. Being inside her own body is horrible, and the girl always wanted to be the protagonist because she is close to Koshiro, and now even more so because she is dating him. The protagonist, despite her sadness, finds a friend to occupy her head. A little bird appears to her, and the girl takes it to her house. The next day, Ayumi spreads posters of the little animal that was found, in case anyone lost it. A project is being set up at school, and upon seeing that Koshiro was on the stage team, the protagonist applies for this task too. However, when she is painting and doing work, she discovers that Koshiro has swapped tasks with Kaga so he doesn't have to meet with Ayumi in Zenko's body. When Kaga sees the girl's drawing, he teases her because it looks terrible and says it's as bad as the ones the girl he likes makes. In the game of finding out who the boy is referring to, Ayumi ends up getting paint on him, and they both laugh about the situation. Then the protagonist says that she will ask the class to buy more materials, and when she is going, Kaga calls her again, and when she turns around, he sees Ayumi for a moment, but she thinks she is going crazy. First, Ayumi goes to her two friends, who were there until she was in her real body. The girls tell her to ask other people and ask that, from that moment on, the protagonist use their formal name. Ayumi gets upset, and when she goes to ask other people to buy, she ends up being ignored, so the girl hurries out of the place crying. Kaga notices what happened and goes to get the paper with the list of what needs to be purchased. The boy realizes at this moment that Zenko's handwriting is the same as Ayumi's, and when he takes it to his notebook, where she had written a message to compare, he begins to believe that the two exchanged bodies. The protagonist is returning to the room when she hears Kaga defending her from the girls because they are isolating her. The two say that it's because Zenko, referring to the protagonist, is threatening Ayumi. However, they don't know why. At this moment, the protagonist enters to tell her side of the story, and Zenko in Ayumi's body says that the girl is upset because she started dating Koshiro. Everyone is in shock, and Kaga can't stand seeing what they are doing to the protagonist, so he approaches Ayumi's body and says he knows her little secret and that if she continues with this joke, he will tell Koshiro that the girl is Zenko in a body that isn't yours. This results in the girl going back and apologizing to the protagonist. Afterwards, Ayumi in Zenko's body will thank Kaga for defending her. The boy asks her if she is really Ayumi and says he believes in the girl and that he will help her return to her original body. Kaga, to cheer up her friend, hands over the strawberry drink that the three of them were drinking together. Meanwhile, Zenko begins to feel anxious about Ayumi's body and starts biting her nails again. And a mysterious woman takes the poster of the found bird that the protagonist had hung. Ayumi the next day tries to feel a little better with her new body. However, she can't adjust much with her clothes being smaller than she would need and without even having a brush to comb her hair. Meanwhile, Zenko starts freaking out in Ayumi's body because she doesn't understand how Kaga discovered the truth. At school, Koshiro invites her to talk, and the girl becomes increasingly nervous for fear of him also finding out. The boy takes her to a dark room and says he knows that she is not Ayumi, as she has a phobia of pitch. However, he surprises her by saying that it's okay for Zenko to be in Ayumi's body, as long as she teaches him how to enter Kaga's body, as he doesn't accept the fact that his classmates always like his friend more. In fact, he makes a confession he's only dating Ayumi because it's the only thing Kaga really likes, and the boy likes to take that away from him. Zenko agrees. However, Koshiro first has to try to fall in love with her in Ayumi's body, and then she will teach him. Meanwhile, Kaga tries to help his friend. He took a clip from his sister's hair to fix the protagonist's bangs. She thanks him for being his friend. Later, the mysterious woman with the poster appears in front of the protagonist's school. Zenko is mean to her friends, and she later asks Koshiro not to talk to any other girls besides her. The two end up bumping into Ayumi in the hallway, and the protagonist asks to talk to her. The girl begs her to tell her how she disposes of the bodies, but Zenko isn't in the mood to help. And she even reveals that Koshiro knows the truth and that he doesn't mind being like that. At this moment, Koshiro is also telling Kaga what he knows, and his friend is incredulous that he is okay with Ayumi suffering in a body that is not his. Zenko goes to her two friends and apologizes for earlier. She also asks them both to do her a favor. The two go to the protagonist to also apologize and say that it's okay for her to use her informal name with them. The girls pass on the message that Zenko is in the courtyard, and if she wants to know how to exchange, she will have to find her before 4 p.m. Upon arriving at the playground, the classmates announce that Zenko has returned to the classroom and time is almost running out. Ayumi inside the school sees her entering the horror attraction that the class set up, and the protagonist needs to make a choice. Either she overcomes her fear and seizes the opportunity to change bodies, or she will stay like this forever. When Zenko realizes that Ayumi has entered, she turns off all the lights, leaving the protagonist in complete darkness. Koshiro decides to help her and tells Kaga that Ayumi is in the room. The protagonist is starting to feel sick when her friend shows up and helps her. Later, the two are talking, and Kaga says he believes that despite what Koshiro said to Zenko, he thinks the boy would never betray Ayumi. This makes the protagonist find the courage to go to Koshiro to talk, and when she arrives in the room, she sees Zenko and the boy almost kissing. So she only has one reaction, and that is to run while she cries. When the girl passes by Kaga, he starts to follow her, and when he catches up to her, the boy calms her down and says that he will always be by her side and that together they will find a way to change things. After things calm down a bit, Kaga invites the protagonist on a date, and she accepts. At night, Ayumi is looking at the stars and remembering moments with her boyfriend in her old body. Suddenly, she receives a call from a private number, and when she answers, a woman says she knows that she has changed bodies. Ayumi and Kaga are testing tips they found while researching to get their friend back to her original body. After trying almost everything on the list, the girl reveals that she received a call from a woman, and she said she could help her if she took her bird back. However, the protagonist is afraid to go there. But Kaga supports her and accompanies her. Meanwhile, Zenko and Koshiro are on a date and having fun. When Ayumi and Kaga arrive at the woman's laboratory, she reveals that she has also switched bodies with someone. When Koshiro and Zenko meet, the girl tells him that she will not tell him how to swap bodies, as it is a dream come true to be dating him and the life she has achieved. If he cheats on her, Zenko says she would not be able to survive. Returning to the protagonist, the woman explains the conditions for the exchange to be a success. The person has to take their life while the red moon happens. They must be seen by the person they want to be, and they have to die to be reborn. When Ayumi explains further that the first body swap has already taken place, the woman explains that there is no way to help her, as there is no way to swap. All the tests she did on her clients who tried to swap ended in tragedy. Kaga says she will walk Ayumi home, but she wants to be alone after the news that she will be trapped in this body forever. On the way, the protagonist begins to miss her parents and runs to the front of her house. She sees Zenko at the table, with them laughing and playing from the window. Soon, sadness takes over her body. Kaga catches her crying in front of the residence and decides to confess to her friend, saying that regardless of the body she is in, he loves her anyway. Koshiro also appears and hears Kaga's speech. He asks to talk to Ayumi, just the two of them. The protagonist ends up telling the boy that she met someone who knows how to change bodies and tells him the details, then adds that once it's done, she can't undo it. Koshiro, after finding out, gives Ayumi a strawberry drink and leaves. She is going home alone and comes across her friend Kaga again. The boy apologizes for revealing his feelings at this difficult time in the protagonist's life and says he will be there to support her whenever she needs it, regardless of the girl's feelings towards him. Kaga also reveals that he believes that Koshiro still likes Ayumi, as he was the one who warned him that she was in the dark in the classroom so that Kaga could save her, which indicates that he still cares. However, saying these feelings to Ayumi without talking about what Koshiro did for her would make Kaga feel like a coward for hiding them. Maria and Ritsu call Kaga to talk the next day at school. They ask him why he distanced himself from Ayumi, referring to Zenko in Ayumi's body, and Koshiro, and they also question him for getting closer to Zenko, in this case, Ayumi in Zenko's body. He confesses to liking Zenko to the girls. However, other boys in the class heard him as they passed by and took the information to the rest of the people in the classroom. Zenko in Ayumi's body, upon hearing this, starts to get irritated that someone likes her old body and that people pay attention to her. She leaves the classroom irritated and meets Koshiro, who says he has a plan to end the protagonist and Kaga. Meanwhile, Kaga defends the protagonist in front of everyone and says it's true that he likes her. This results in the girl getting closer to the rest of the class and no longer feeling so alone. Zenko starts to freak out in the art room and tells Koshiro that she suffered a lot in that body, and now they start to like him. The boy asks her to tell him more, and Zenko talks about how she was always alone. People felt disgusted by her just being near her and made a point of saying so, but everything got a little better when Koshiro helped her clean things up after class. Or when Zenko got sick and came back after a few days, the boy gave her notes of what she had to say. It was on that day that she started to hope that they could have some romance. So she decided to write a letter declaring herself, but she didn't have the courage to deliver it. On the way back, She ended up listening to Koshiro and Kaga's conversation, where he said he was going to tell Ayumi about her feelings, and Kaga supported him. Koshiro tells Zenko that he will make Ayumi and Kaga switch bodies, as he now knows how to do it. Zenko believes it is impossible, but the boys said that at most it will look like they took their own lives. The mysterious woman's little bird heard everything. In fact, he is a man who switched bodies with the animal and told her everything, so the woman named Yukon decides to call Kaga and Ayumi to tell them what she learned. The two don't believe that Koshiro would do that, and the woman just asks them to be careful, as the next red moon is close. On the same night, the two meet the boy and say that they believe in him and trust that he won't do anything. Yukon appears at school and goes after Zenko. The woman says she knows she took Ayumi's body and takes her to her laboratory. There, Yukon asks if she regrets it, and upon finding out that she doesn't, the woman says that she doesn't seem to be happy, even after all the dangers she faced to change bodies. When Zenko is returning from her place, she passes in front of an establishment and sees Ayumi having fun with some colleagues. This causes her to become anxious and start biting her nails again. The girl does not accept seeing her old body receiving attention. The next day, Kaga asks Ayumi to wait for him after class in the classroom, and Koshiro later says he wants to talk to her alone after class, then says that if the protagonist wants that too, to meet him in the art room. Ayumi decides to do as Koshiro asked and leave Kaga in the lurch. However, when she enters the art room, she comes across Zenko. And Koshiro is with Kaga in the classroom. The boy says that if he doesn't want something to happen to the protagonist, he needs to follow him. The two start fighting in a high place, while Zenko forces Ayumi to watch from the window. In the end, Koshiro and Kaga end up falling from their places, and the two of them switch bodies. Zenko becomes desperate when she approaches Koshiro's body because what she wanted most was for him to never change with Kaga. At the hospital, Zenko is desperate because she is afraid of the boys having swapped their bodies. When Koshiro's body is discharged, everything seems to get worse for the girl, as they have actually switched, and this is Kaga in her beloved's body. However, Koshiro in Kaga's body has not yet woken up. Ayumi calls Yukon to help in this situation, and the woman calms them down, as this has happened before, but everyone wakes up in the end. She adds that the body swaps only occurred because they both wanted to, otherwise, they wouldn't have worked. The next day, the protagonist is willing to do everything to make her friend happier and more comfortable, just like he did with her when her body was stolen. Zenko passes by just as her classmates are talking about Kaga, in Koshiro's body, and Ayumi, in Zenko's body, being a new couple. The girl begins to show more and more that she is not well, and she pushes away the few people who are left who want to be around her. Zenko receives a message from Koshiro, who is still in the hospital, and he tells her that she has woken up. The girl goes to Koshiro's room, and he asks her to stay with him, as he is still the same inside. In the next scene, we see Koshiro and Kaga in front of Zenko's house, where Ayumi is living because she is in the girl's body. They call her, and Kaga explains to her what Koshiro was doing all this time. The boy approached Zenko to find out how to bring Ayumi back to normal, and now he has a plan. The protagonist questions the two about whether it was all an invention and why they switched bodies, and then they explain the plan. Everyone will exchange their bodies until they return to their original ones first. Kaga will go to Zenko's body and Ayumi to Koshiro's. Then Zenko for Kaga's body, and Koshiro for Ayumi's. On the other red moon, they will switch to their original bodies and finish. However, Kaga reminds them that Zenko won't want to cooperate, so the only option is to trick her, just like the girl had done to Ayumi. However, the protagonist doesn't want to do the same thing that happened to her and thinks of a way to make her cooperate. Koshiro, going to Kaga's family's house, remembers how difficult the process of lying to his friend and his loved one was, even more so after seeing her fall in love with Kaga. Meanwhile, Ayumi approaches Zenko's mother. Returning to Koshiro, still on the way, He ends up meeting Zenko in the rain, and she throws herself at his feet, crying and asking the boy not to leave her alone. Now without friends, he is the only thing she has left again. Later, Koshiro realizes that he cannot deceive Zenko, so he calls Ayumi and Kaga and tells them that he will tell the girl the truth and try to convince her to cooperate. The next morning, Kaga brings news to her friends: the red moon will only appear twice more and then never again, so Ayumi and the boy try to reach Koshiro before he talks to Zenko. However, they arrive too late, and in the end, the girl leaves school crying after learning that everything was a plan and that she was deceived this entire time. Kaga wants to go after Zenko, but Koshiro asks them to wait a day so she can think about the information she just received. The next day, it rains heavily in the morning, and Zenko doesn't show up to class. The teacher, before starting to teach the material, makes an announcement that the girl has been missing since the previous day. The students decide to go looking for her in the city, and Koshiro tells his friends that they need to find her soon, as he is afraid that she will take her own life, taking into account things she told him before. Meanwhile, Zenko is with Yukon and shows Koshiro's plan to the woman, who asks her if she wants to return to her old body. The girl says no, so Yukon tells her story and how she ended up trapped in a body that didn't belong to her. Over time, she became alone, and if Zenko doesn't want the same for herself, she advises her to do so. Returning to the protagonist, Ayumi's mother is helping her colleagues search for places that she knows are important for her daughter, and this sparks an idea in the girl. The protagonist goes to Zenko's house and talks about everything that has been happening since the beginning to the girl's mother, then asks if she knows of somewhere she could be. And the woman indicates a forest there. Ayumi starts to get nervous because she is afraid of the dark, but in the end she finds Zenko. The girl wants her to leave and doesn't accept help from the other two when they arrive. Despite the trio's efforts to try to make her feel better, nothing seems to be enough. Kaga gets angry and says that Zenko is obsessed with persecution. Amidst the argument and crying, Zenko's mother appears and hears everything. She can't believe that her daughter really did this and forces her to apologize to her colleagues. The woman adds that despite having a beautiful face now, her personality remains the same, and that's why she pushes people away. However, the girl rebels and breaks free from her mother's arms. After grabbing a box cutter, she runs to the roof. The group goes after her, and Zenko threatens to cut her face off the body she is in so that she stops being beautiful, and they stop liking Ayumi's face. The girl's mother comes up to the place and doesn't have the courage to slap her again. She decides to hug her daughter and apologize for leaving her alone for so long that the girl was like that. The trio reminds her that Ayumi and Koshiro tried to get closer to her several times, but the girl only pushed them away, and that it didn't have to be like that and it doesn't need to continue if she wants. They are there. The next day, the quartet put Koshiro's plan into practice, and it worked perfectly for the last 2 red moons. The protagonist can return to her life with her family, which she missed so much, and Zenko gets closer to her mother. Ayumi at school talks to her friends and says that she can't go back to dating Koshiro or starting with Kaga. She can't go back to normal now that she knows everything. So Kaga takes her to talk to just the two of them and says that if he has something to steal, he will do it, but he knows that Koshiro beats him when it comes to who the girl likes, and everything is fine. We see Kaga before entering the classroom. The boy is a little upset and emotional, but he hides it and encourages Zenko to enter. She is more in tune with her colleagues, and it is a chance to start over. Koshiro later says that it was cool to have been in Ayumi's body with Kaga, and the two play with this little secret. Zenko is now part of the group, and everything ends well. What did you think of this season? I hope you liked the summary. Leave your suggestions in the comments and subscribe. If you liked the video, like and share to help me. Until next time.